Hi everyone. So today's workshop will be focusing on the topics of Bidmas, substitution and formula. So the first thing that we are going to look at is what Bidmas stands for. So Bidmas is the order in which you must complete all calculations and formulas. So as the letters of Bidmas are written Bidmas, those letters actually correspond to brackets, indices, division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. And this is the order that we must follow whenever we are given any calculation. So brackets must be first if they are there, then any indices, then divide, multiply, add and subtract. So we must keep them in these orders in order to get the correct answer. The first thing that we're just going to re-explore is indices and what are indices and how we can complete indices calculations. So indices are the small numbers next to larger numbers in a calculation. So a little 2 means squared and 3 means cubed. So 5 with a little 2 is 5 squared or 5 to the power of 2, which is really important to remember. This means 5 times 5, not 5 multiplied by 2. As 5 times 5 would give you 25, and 5 with a little 2 is 10. What's really good to remember is if you remember that this is squared, you remember that squared numbers are always multiplied by themselves. We then come across cubed. So this means 2 now to the power of 3, which is 2 by 2 by 2. So now think a cube, three numbers in our calculation, not 3 multiplied by 2, because here 2 times 2 would be 4, times by 2, which would be 8, and not 2 times 3, which would leave us with 6. Let's remember cubed. Okay. So just a couple of questions to have a go at. I want us to really focus on questions 1 and questions 2. So remember that we've got 3 with a little 2, which means 3 multiplied by itself. So we're going to go 3 times 3, which then gives us 9. We then have a little cube number here, so it's always important to write the calculation out first. So the calculation is asking us to do 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25, then multiplied by 5, not 5 times 3. So, for those of you where multiplication might still be a struggle, the best way to branch this out and to make this calculation easier is to do what we call grid method. So we break the 25 up into 20 and 5, and then we put our 5 here, and we draw some lines in between, which then gives us grid method. So then we multiply. Times sign. We then do 5 lots of 20, which is 100. 5 lots of 5 is 25. Add the two answers together, which then gives us an answer of 25 times 5 as 125. And that is our indices. So now what we are going to have a look at, we're now going to have a look at actually solving Bidmas problems. And the easy way to do this is each time you encounter a problem is to write the answer of that calculation underneath. So the first example, 4 times 15. Now in your exam, there will be no ability to use the divide sign on the computer. So there is no, you will then use this forward slash, which means divide. So our question says 4 times 15 divided by 3. Here, I'll just show you as the example that you use to write now. Now follow Bidmas. So notice that we have a multiply and a divide sign. And according to Bidmas, D is before M, so divide becomes first. So we must do 15 divided by 3, not 4 times 15. So an easy way to do this is to write the beginning of the answer out, and then our answer, so 15 divided by 3, which is 5, and then complete the calculation. 4 times 5 equals 20, and that is our answer. Okay, let's have a look now at number 2. So now we've got 3 add 4 multiplied by 2 take away 3. And notice here we've got 3 symbols. So we've got add, we've got multiply, and we've got subtraction. Notice our M is before our add and subtract, so we must do this first. And as previous, we're going to write the answers out each time. So we've got 3 add, now 4 times 2, which is 8, take away that 3. And we're left with then an add and subtract. So A becomes before S. So we've got to do the add first. So 8 add 3 is 11. Then subtract your 3, which then leaves you with 8 again. And that is your answer. And then our third one, and one which in we encounter brackets. So here we're going to do 6 multiplied by 2, add 1, and then multiply that whole bracket by 2. So now you might be thinking, oh, but there's different symbols within the bracket. Which one do I do first? So within a bracket, you then follow Bidmas. So multiply would come before our add. So on brackets now read 12, add 1, multiplied by 2. Now this might appear a really long-winded way of doing Bidmas, but it helps keep your calculations in order so that you're following the process correctly. We then end up with 13 times by 2, which then our answer is 26. And that is how we solve Bidmas problems. Now, sometimes we might have Bidmas problems that create negative numbers. Please do not think that they are not answers if you are left with a negative number. This is the exam board checking that we can then use positive and negative numbers in calculations. So, for example, here we have got 10, add 4, take away 15. And as before, add becomes before our takeaway because A is before the S. So then we're left with 14 take away 15, which would then, not 15 take away 14, would then leave us with -1. So do not be worried if you end up with a minus number. It is intentional from the exam board. We then end up as number 3 is 2 brackets 7 take away 3 times 5. And now in our brackets, we then have a multiply and a take away. So we're going to rewrite our answer doing the multiplication first. So 2 brackets 7 take away 15. Now you might be thinking, now that's not as easy as 14 take away 15 because I know I'm only going to be left with 1. So an easy way to do the subtraction is when the larger number is taken from a smaller, is to flip the calculation and add a minus sign. So flip the subtraction and add a minus. So for example here, we do 15 take away 7, which then leaves us with 8, and add the minus sign. So our answer is now 2 multiplied by -8, because when numbers are next to brackets, we then multiply. 2 multiplied by -8, which then gives us another minus of -16. And that is our answer. And that is Bidmas. The next topic that we are going to be looking at is what we call substitutions. And if anybody happens to be a fan of football or any sport, a substitution is when another player comes on or is exchanged for another. It's a little bit like how it's used in maths, where substitution involves replacing letters with numbers. That's it. Now, many people think substitution and anything with letters in maths involves algebra. No, that's not the case. Substitution is far less complicated than any algebraic equation because you are often and will be in your exam given what the numbers or the letters are equal to. So, for example, some rules to help you remember: when numbers and letters are next to each other, you need to multiply. So, for example, 5A means 5 lots of A. AB means A times B, and A with a little 2, as we know before, means squared, so A multiplied by A. And you will often be given what A is and then asked to calculate the answer. So I'm just going to flick through some bits here. We're just going to look at simple equations first. So now we're saying if A equals 4, what would 5A be? So the easiest way is to write the 5 times A out first, then underneath just rewrite it out with now your A being 4. So 5 times A is 5 times 4, which is 20. And then again, 7A equals 7 times A, which is 7 times 4, which is 28. And then our last one, A squared equals A times A. We know A is 4, so 4 times 4 is then left with 16. A nice simple way of doing it is breaking it down for yourself so you know which ones is which. Okay, sometimes we can use a combination of letters in order for substitution calculations to be presented to us. So for example, we might have AB, 2a plus b, and 3a plus 2b. So this is basically saying a times b, which is then saying a is your 5 and b is your 6. So 5 times 6, or a times b, is 30. Then we've got 2a plus b, so 2 times a plus b. All we're going to do underneath is just replace that a and b now. So 2 times, we know a is 5, plus b, which is 6. And now we're left with a Bidmas problem. 2 times 5 is 10, add 6 is then left with 16. And we've got our answer. And then our last one, we've got 3a, take away 2b. So this is basically saying 3 times a, take away 2 lots of b. And then we're doing 3 times 5, take away 2 times 6, 15, take away 12, and we're left with 3. And that is our substitution problems. Now, sometimes in your exam, you might be asked to calculate what we call inverse. So sometimes you are given the answer and asked to work out the value of a letter. So for example, if 3a is equal to 15, what would a be equal? So what we mean by a is just one lot of that a. So to find this, we do the inverse. So notice we know that 3a actually means 3 times something. So 3 times something is equal to 15. So then our primary number here, 3, you're just going to divide that 15 by that to then get this. So 15 divided by 3 is a. We know that 15 divided by 3 is 5. So a is equal to 5. Fantastic. Okay, what we're now going to have a look at is some exam style questions in substitution where 2 letters are given to us and we're having to find the value of an answer. So our first question says, find the value of x if y equals 5. So what we're now going to do, we're going to have a look at this and we're going to substitute those letters now for the numbers. So we've got 3x, take away y equals 40. And we're having to find out what this x is. So 3 times something, take away y equals 40. Now we know that in our question y is equal to 5, so we're going to rewrite our question out with now that number being 5. So 3x take away 5 equals 40. And our question is basically saying what times by 3, if you then took away 5, would make 40. So the easiest way to do it, because the question is a takeaway, you add. So you do the opposite, or what we call the inverse. So now we're going to write 40 add 5 equals 3x. And we now know that 45 is equal to 3 lots of x. So to find x, or to find 1x, we do 45 divided by 3, which is then 15. So 15 times 3 is 45, take away 5, then leaves us with 40. And that can be really helpful when you're checking your answer. Okay, let's try one more. So now we've got 2a plus b equals 30. And in our question, it says b equals 6, and we want to know what a is. So for example here, we're going to do 2a plus 6, take away 30. And notice this time what we have is different. This is a plus. So we're now going to have to subtract and do the inverse. So 30 take away 6 equals 2a. 30 take away 6 is 24. So 24 is equal to 2 lots of our number. So what number divided by 24 is equal to? So 24 divided by 2, half of 24 is a. 12 is then a. And we've got our answer. Our last topic that we are then going to look at is what we call formulas. Now, formulas are often used in our daily lives to calculate certain things. Whenever you're getting in things like a taxi, whenever you're trying to work out pay, formulas are used to help us understand how to complete certain processes. What's really important to remember is to remember our symbols whenever we are dealing with formulas. So some of the most common ones that come up is square root. Now, for example, you might get something that looks like this. And this means what number times by itself is equal to 16? And the answer is 4, because 4 times 4 equals 16. So if you ever see that, that is what that is saying. It's saying what number is times by itself makes the answer on the inside. Okay, so formula. In maths, sometimes a formula is a type of equation where letters are used to represent specific numbers or amounts. For example, when riding in a taxi, the meter uses a formula to work out the cost of your journey. For example, cost equals miles in M times £1.50 add your standing charge. Or cost equals M times £1.50 plus SC. And all we do is we look what those letters are corresponding to and we complete the calculation. So a question might say, if the miles travelled are 10 and the standing charge is £3.50, then we will calculate the total as follows, remembering to follow Bidmas. So we know cost is M times £1.50 at SC. So we would then substitute that for the numbers. So M is equal to 10 and standing charge is equal to £3.50. So our equation now reads 10 times £1.50 at £3.50. This comes first because of Bidmas, which gives us an answer of 15, and then at £3.50, add them together, and we get an answer of £18.50. Okay, next we might be asked to calculate something called income tax, which is a common question in the exam. So when working out how much tax we have to pay, HMRC uses the formula. Tax equals 0.2 y take away p. And this formula might actually means tax equals 0.2 times whatever is in that bracket. So your yearly pay, take away your personal allowance. So whenever you have a number next to a bracket, it means multiply. So using the formula above, calculate the amount of tax someone has to pay if their yearly salary is 20,000 and their personal allowance is 11,570. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to write out our formula in your own words, so you can then substitute it later. Always find it really good to write out the formula yourself. Okay, what we're now going to do is we're going to now start substituting. So we know in our question the person's yearly pay is 20,000. So tax equals 0.2 times brackets 20,000 take away 11,570. And as these questions normally fall on your calculator paper, we're now going to work that out. So we're going to do 0.2 times, what would 20,000 take away 11,570 be? 20,000 take away 11,570, which leaves us with 8,430. And then to get our final answer, we're going to multiply that 8,430 by 0.2, which then gives us a total tax for the year of 1,686. And that is how we calculate using formula income tax. Okay, sometimes we might have expressions where we need to expand on what's being used. So this question here is asking us to calculate the total pay of somebody's pay from working a full week at work. And the formula that's used is total pay equals HP add 04. And we're given some things to help us. We're given that H means hours worked, P means basic pay, and O means overtime. So now, how much would you earn if you worked 32 hours, had a basic pay of £6.88 an hour, and had an overtime pay rate of £7.50? So the three words that I want you to remember whenever you're dealing with formula: expand, substitute, and Bidmas. So first, expand your formula so the operations are clear. So HP add 04 actually means H times P add brackets O times 4. So now you know what you are dealing with. We then start substituting those letters for numbers. So H we know is hours worked, in our question says 32, multiplied by P, which is our basic pay of £6.88, add what's in our brackets, overtime pay of £7.50, multiplied by 4. And now all you need to do is follow Bidmas to get your answer. So the first thing that we're going to do is our brackets, remember Bidmas, 750 times 4, which then gives us 30. And then we're going to do 32 times £6.88, which is £220.16. We're going to add those two together, which gives us a final answer of £220.16. Sorry, £250.16. Always good to check over your answers. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is one of those questions again where we've got to use that three words, so expand, substitute, and Bidmas. James wants to purchase flea treatment for his dog and is becoming too expensive at the vets. The flea treatment comes in three sizes. The vets have given him the formula to calculate the correct flea treatment, and this formula is here. Flea treatment equals W divided by 0.5 brackets A3. So the first job that we need to do is expand your formula so the operations are clear. So flea treatment equals W divided by 0.5. Now notice that it's next to a bracket, so that actually means multiplied by whatever's in the bracket, and we've got a letter and number next to each other, so it means A times 3. So now our formula means flea treatment equals weight divided by 0.5 divided by age multiplied by 3. Now we're going to substitute the letters or symbols for numbers. So FT equals W, weight, where is weight? His dog was 15 kilograms, so we're going to do 15 divided by 0.5, and then we're going to multiply that by the dog's age, which is 3, and times by 3. Now, all we need to do is follow Bidmas. So our brackets come first. FT equals 15 divided by 0.5 multiplied by 9. Then we have the division. So FT divided by 30 times by 9. And we're left with an answer of 270. And our question's asking us to recommend what flea treatment. So flea treatment 1 is an answer of 100 to 200. Flea treatment 2 is an answer of 201 to 300. And flea treatment 3 is an answer of 301 plus. Our answer is 270. So our answer then becomes flea treatment 2. Fantastic. Okay, the last exam question is actually taken from a mock paper. And our question says here, the volume of the cone is given by this formula, where V equals volume in meters cubed, radius is the radius of the base in meters, and H equals height in meters. Using this little symbol as 3.14, so that symbol is equal to that number, what is the volume of the cone? And it's a 1-mark question, okay? So here, what we've got to do is establish what this means. So V equals, we're going to expand this symbol here times by, remember R squared means R times R, times by H, and then that little symbol means divide. So we're going to then divide our whole answer by 3. It's almost like you're bracketing that off a bit. Then we're going to substitute our numbers. 3.14 times the radius, so the base in meters, is 5, multiplied by 5 again, times by the height of the cone, which is 9, bracket that off, divide by 3. I'm then going to pop that whole bracketed bit into my calculator. So 3.14 times 5 times 5 times 9 gives me an answer of 706.5 divided by 3, which then gives me an end answer of 235.5. And what's really important, always write your answers in the boxes. And that is Bidmas, substitution, and formula.